The rain fell in sheets across the parking lot as Marcus knelt beside the sleek black Mercedes, his uniform already soaked through. He could have walked away, should have walked away. His shift had ended 15 minutes ago, and his daughter Lily was waiting at after-school care. But something in the woman's desperate eyes as she sat stranded behind the wheel made him pause. One simple act of kindness would cost him everything he had worked for, and give him something he never expected. If you're touched by stories of life-changing moments and second chances, hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories that remind us how quickly everything can change. Marcus Jenkins checked his watch and winced. 5:30. His shift at Premier Auto Services had officially ended, and he was already cutting it close to pick up Lily from the after-school program that charged by the minute after 6 p.m. Money he definitely didn't have to spare. The rain had started as a drizzle that morning but had transformed into a relentless downpour by afternoon. Through the large windows of the service center, Marcus could see the parking lot had become a small lake, with water reaching halfway up the tires of the vehicles parked outside. "Hey, I'm heading out," he called to his supervisor, Mike, who barely looked up from his computer. "Weather's terrible." "Drive safe," Mike replied absently. Marcus grabbed his thin jacket from his locker, knowing it would provide little protection against the deluge. He'd been at Premier for 3 years now, working his way up from basic oil changes to more complex repairs. The pay wasn't great, but it was steady, and the hours allowed him to be there for Lily most evenings. Since Cynthia had left them 4 years ago, it had just been the two of them against the world. As he pushed open the door to the parking lot, the sound of the rain intensified to a roar. He pulled his jacket over his head and made a dash toward his aging Honda Civic at the far end of the lot. Halfway there, he heard the distinctive sound of an engine turning over repeatedly but failing to catch. Despite his hurry, Marcus slowed. The sound was coming from a black Mercedes S-Class, easily worth more than he made in 2 years, parked near the entrance to the lot. Through the rain-streaked windows, he could make out the silhouette of someone inside, repeatedly trying to start the engine. He hesitated, glancing at his watch again. 5:35 p.m. Every minute counted. But something made him change direction. Maybe it was the years of his father telling him never to leave someone stranded if you could help. Maybe it was the memory of being stuck with a flat tire in the rain with Lily when she was just 3, and how a stranger had stopped to help them. As he approached the Mercedes, the driver's window lowered slightly. A woman with dark hair pulled back in a severe bun peered out at him, her expression a mixture of frustration and relief. "Car won't start?" Marcus asked, rain streaming down his face. "No," she replied, her voice tight with stress. "I have an important meeting, and of all days," she gestured helplessly at the dashboard. "Mind if I take a look?" "I work at the service center," he offered, pointing back toward Premier. She nodded gratefully and popped the hood. Marcus jogged around to the front of the car, lifted the hood, and positioned it to shield himself somewhat from the rain. The engine compartment of the Mercedes was immaculate and intimidating, a far cry from the older models he typically worked on at Premier, which specialized in domestic and mid-range foreign vehicles. The rain continued to soak through his clothes as he methodically checked the most likely culprits for a no-start condition. After a few minutes, he spotted the issue, a loose connection on the battery terminal, likely jarred by a pothole or vibration. It was a simple fix, but in this weather, even simple tasks became challenging. Marcus reached into his pocket for the small multi-tool he always carried. His fingers were growing numb from the cold rain, but he worked quickly, tightening the connection and checking for any other obvious issues. "Try it now," he called out, stepping back from the engine compartment. The woman turned the key, and the engine purred to life immediately. The relief on her face was visible even through the rain-streaked windshield. She lowered the window further. "Thank you so much," she said. "You're soaked through." "Let me," she reached for her purse. Marcus waved her off. "No need. Glad I could help. Drive safely." He closed the hood securely and stepped back, already calculating how fast he'd need to drive to make it to Lily's school before they started charging the late fees. The woman looked like she wanted to say more, but Marcus was already jogging back toward his own car, the rain pelting his back. He didn't see her watching him thoughtfully in her rearview mirror, nor did he notice her making a note of the Premier Auto Services logo on his soaked uniform shirt. Marcus made it to Lily's school with 2 minutes to spare, his clothes still dripping as he signed her out. "Daddy, you're all wet," Lily exclaimed, her 8-year-old face scrunching with concern. She was the spitting image of her mother, with the same chestnut hair and inquisitive eyes, but she had Marcus's quiet determination and kind heart. "Just a little rain, Lilipad," he assured her, using the nickname that always made her smile. "How was school today?" As they drove home to their small apartment, Lily chattered about her day, the science project she was working on, the book she was reading, the friend who had shared her cookies at lunch. Marcus listened attentively, pushing aside his own exhaustion. These moments with Lily were what kept him going through the long hours and financial struggles. Their apartment was modest, a 2-bedroom unit in a complex that had seen better days. But Marcus had worked hard to make it a home. Lily's artwork decorated the refrigerator, and photos of their camping trips and beach days lined the walls. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. After dinner, simple spaghetti that Lily proudly helped prepare, and homework, Marcus tucked his daughter into bed. "Daddy," Lily said sleepily as he kissed her forehead, "Ms. Rodriguez says we need to bring in $20 for the field trip to the Science Museum next week." Marcus felt the familiar tightness in his chest. $20 wasn't much, but with the rent increase last month and the unexpected car repair bill, their budget was stretched painfully thin. "Don't worry, Lilipad. We'll figure it out," he promised, mentally calculating what else he could cut back on. His lunch, maybe. He could bring leftovers instead of buying from the vending machine. After Lily fell asleep, Marcus sat at their small kitchen table with his laptop, reviewing their finances. The numbers hadn't magically improved since the last time he'd checked. He rubbed his tired eyes and closed the computer. Tomorrow was another day. Things would work out somehow. They always did. The next morning at Premier Auto Services started like any other. Marcus arrived early, checked the day's appointments, and began work on an oil change for a regular customer. The routine was comforting after the chaos of the previous evening. Around 10 o'clock, Mike appeared at his workstation, his expression uncharacteristically serious. "Marcus, can you come to the office? Mr. Daniels wants to see you." A flutter of anxiety passed through Marcus's stomach. Richard Daniels was the owner of Premier, a man known for his rigid adherence to company policies and his rare appearances at the service center. In 3 years, Marcus had only seen him twice. He wiped his hands on a shop rag and followed Mike to the small office at the back of the building. Mr. Daniels sat behind the desk, his gray hair perfectly combed, his suit impeccable despite the casual environment of the auto shop. "Jenkins, right?" Mr. Daniels said without preamble as Marcus entered. "Yes, sir. Marcus Jenkins. I received a concerning report this morning. Apparently, you were seen working on a customer's vehicle in the parking lot after hours yesterday. Is that correct?" Marcus blinked in surprise. "Yes, sir. A woman was stranded in the rain. Her car wouldn't start, and I helped her get it going. It was just a loose battery connection." Mr. Daniels's expression remained stern. "You're aware of company policy regarding unauthorized repairs outside of the service bay?" The realization of what was happening hit Marcus like a physical blow. Premier had strict rules about liability. All repairs had to be done inside the service center, with proper documentation and billing. It was a policy he knew well but hadn't considered in his rush to help. "Sir, I wasn't thinking of it as a repair. The woman was stranded in the rain, and I just..." "Intentions aside, Jenkins, you violated company policy. You created a potential liability issue for Premier. What if your fix had caused further damage? What if the customer had claimed you damaged something else while working on her vehicle? Marcus wanted to argue that he'd only been trying to help, that sometimes being human had to come before being an employee, but he could see from Mr. Daniels's expression that the decision had already been made. I'm afraid I have to terminate your employment, effective immediately, Mr. Daniels continued, sliding a folder across the desk. Here's information about your final paycheck and continuation of benefits. You can collect your personal items, but I'll need your uniform and key card before you leave. The world seemed to tilt beneath Marcus's feet. 3 years of reliable work, never late, rarely sick, always willing to take on extra shifts, all ended because he'd stopped to help someone in the rain. Sir, please, Marcus said, his voice steady despite the panic rising in his chest. I'm a single father. I need this job. It won't happen again. Policy is policy, Jenkins. I'm sorry. 20 minutes later, Marcus walked out of Premier Auto Services for the last time, a small box of personal items in his arms and a hollow feeling in his stomach. How was he going to tell Lily? How would they manage without his income? The field trip money now seemed like the least of his worries. As he placed the box in his car, his phone rang. It was Lily's school. His heart sank further. What now? Mr. Jenkins? This is Nurse Garcia from Westside Elementary. Lily fell during recess and may have sprained her wrist. She's okay, but we need you to come pick her up and possibly take her for an X-ray. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, taking a deep breath. I'll be right there. The emergency room was crowded, and Marcus and Lily waited for nearly 3 hours before a doctor could see her. The diagnosis was a mild sprain, no break, thankfully, but the medical bill would be another financial burden they didn't need. As they drove home, Lily's wrist wrapped in an ace bandage, she looked up at her father with worried eyes. Daddy, why aren't you at work? Is it because of me? Marcus forced a smile. No, Lillipad. I'm taking some time off. The lie tasted bitter, but he couldn't bear to worry her more. How about we stop for ice cream on the way home? Special treatment for brave girls with sprains. Lily's face brightened, and for a moment, Marcus could pretend everything was going to be okay. That night, after Lily was asleep, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with a stack of bills and his laptop, searching for job openings. The auto repair industry in their small city was tight-knit, and he worried that word of his firing would spread. He expanded his search to include any job that might use his skills, maintenance positions, delivery driving, anything that would keep a roof over their heads. By midnight, he had applied to 12 positions and had a list of 10 more to try in the morning. His eyes burned with fatigue, but sleep seemed impossible with the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. His phone buzzed with a text message, unusual for this hour. It was from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Jenkins, this is Catherine Vega. We met briefly yesterday when you helped with my car. I'd like to speak with you about a potential opportunity. Are you available for a meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Please let me know. Marcus stared at the message in confusion. The name wasn't familiar, but it had to be the woman from the Mercedes. How had she gotten his number? And what kind of opportunity could she possibly be offering? Despite his skepticism, he couldn't afford to ignore any potential lead. He texted back his agreement and tried to get a few hours of sleep before facing whatever tomorrow would bring. The address Catherine Vega had provided led Marcus to a sleek office building in the business district, a part of town he rarely visited. Lily was spending the day with a neighbor who had kindly offered to watch her when Marcus explained his job situation. The lobby directory listed Vega Automotive Group on the top floor. The name triggered a distant memory. Vega was a major automotive corporation that owned dealerships and service centers across the region. Premier Auto Services was just one small operation in their vast network. As the elevator climbed, Marcus's mind raced. Was this woman connected to his firing somehow? Was this meeting some kind of formality, perhaps to have him sign additional paperwork or to warn him against speaking negatively about Premier? The elevator doors opened to reveal a reception area with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. A young woman at the desk greeted him with a professional smile. "Mr. Jenkins? Ms. Vega is expecting you. Please follow me." She led him down a hallway lined with framed photographs of various automotive facilities, dealerships, service centers, and what appeared to be manufacturing plants. At the end of the hall, she opened a door to a spacious office where a woman stood looking out the window. When she turned, Marcus recognized her immediately as the woman from the Mercedes. In the harsh fluorescent light of the parking lot, soaked by rain, he hadn't fully registered her features. Now, in the natural light of her office, he could see she was perhaps in her early 40s, with intelligent eyes and an air of quiet authority. "Mr. Jenkins, thank you for coming," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Catherine Vega, CEO of Vega Automotive Group." Marcus felt as if the floor had dropped out from under him. The woman he'd helped in the rain wasn't just any customer, she was the owner of the entire company, including Premier Auto Services. "Please, sit down," she continued, gesturing to a chair across from her desk. "I imagine you're wondering why I asked you here." Marcus nodded, finding his voice. "Yes, ma'am. I am." Catherine sat down across from him, her expression serious but not unkind. "I understand you were terminated from your position at Premier yesterday. Because of helping me, I believe?" "Yes," Marcus admitted. "Company policy about unauthorized repairs outside the service bay." Catherine nodded. "A policy that exists for good reasons, primarily liability concerns. But policies should guide human judgment, not replace it." She leaned forward slightly. "Mr. Jenkins, what you did yesterday, stopping to help a stranger in the rain when you were clearly in a hurry to leave, speaks volumes about your character." Marcus shifted uncomfortably under her gaze. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Catherine said firmly. "They wouldn't. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes before you came out. 3 other employees walked right past my car. One even made eye contact with me and kept walking." She stood and moved to a filing cabinet, retrieving a folder. "I've reviewed your employment record from Premier. 3 years of exemplary service. Consistently positive customer feedback. Technical skills that exceed your current position's requirements." She returned to her desk and sat down again. "Mr. Jenkins, I didn't ask you here to discuss your termination. I asked you here to offer you a job." Marcus stared at her, certain he had misheard. "A job?" "Yes. Vega Automotive is opening a new training center for service technicians. We need instructors who not only understand the technical aspects of automotive repair but who embody the values we want to instill in our employees, including compassion and a willingness to go above and beyond for people in need." She slid a document across the desk toward him. "This is an offer of employment as a senior instructor. The position includes a substantial increase in salary from your previous role, comprehensive benefits, and a schedule that would allow you more time with your daughter." Marcus looked down at the paper, his eyes widening at the salary figure. It was nearly double what he'd been making at Premier. "How did you know about my daughter?" he asked, looking up in surprise. Catherine smiled slightly. "You checked your watch at least 3 times while helping me, and you mentioned needing to pick someone up. When I asked about you at Premier, several people mentioned you were a single father. I hope you don't mind the inquiry. I like to know who I'm considering for positions in my company." Marcus was speechless. 24 hours ago, he'd been employed but struggling. Then he'd lost everything. And now, this unexpected turn of events, a better job, better pay, better hours, all because he'd stopped to help someone in the rain. "I don't know what to say," he finally managed. "Say yes," Catherine replied simply. "The training center opens in 2 weeks. We'll need you to start immediately with the curriculum development." Marcus thought of Lily, of the stability.